These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Brodin to Dumba, in with speed. Dumba centers. Foligno scores! Bumped by Kaprizov, taken away by Fiala. Fiala races through neutral ice. Holding off a check from Stützle. Fiala, Kaprizov scores! The thrill breaks the seal, and Minnesota wins in overtime.
Get the flag.
Get the flag.
The seal has been broken.
We're back. The thrill's back.
He's back. Yes. Welcome.
Hold on.
Mackey and Judd. Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment. Daily Minnesota Sports Conditioning.
Oh my God.
We just want titles, and I could
Surely.
see a little 2-on-1 tic-tac-toe in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Bing, bing, overtime. I could see it. I could see it last night. Exciting game last night, boys.
Blew a 2-goal lead. Most dangerous lead in hockey.
I would
of course.
say they set themselves up.
Yep,
Is what
and
happened.
Then, and
Set
then
themselves up.
they set Kirill up to say, okay, 3-on-3.
Enough of this.
And a pass you can't miss. And he scored.
Here we go.
Dude, okay. Here's the question. Okay, how many games was it after the third game or the fourth game? How many games was LaPanta sitting on the Kirill breaks the seal call? I love that. Dude. That was
4 or
great.
5. I think probably 5's probably
Yeah.
safe.
Breaks the seal.
And as we all know, once you break the seal, you just they just bang, bang, bang.
Yeah,
like you can't stop scoring goals.
6 consecutive games with a goal. Wave the flag. So you guys were both at the X last night, speeding back for a little Purple After Dark, which you guys can find on Purple Daily. But the Hockey Whisperer, from his comfortable sports viewing den, has 3 observations about the Minnesota Wild, if you would like to partake.
All right.
Are you saying a hat trick of observations from
That's right.
the Whisperer, a.k.a. Macadac, a.k.a. Kraken Phil?
That's right. Kraken Phil.
It's
Phil
Kraken
Phil the
Phil.
crackhead. That's right. The Hockey Whisperer has 3 observations, and as we did last week, the Whisperer would like to just sort of calibrate. It's been a while. The Whisperer hasn't dusted the takes off in a while here, so he would like to float some observations, and then you can help him calibrate. Is he spot on? Is he a little off? Because all of this is training for the playoffs. Because the Hockey Whisperer was born, was it 8 years ago, 7-8 years ago, predicting a double overtime game winner from Nino Niederreiter. And for him to be that calibrated,
Right.
he needs the help of Judd's Hockey Show.
Heatley, up to Niederreiter.
Palmenville?
Danny.
All right, observation number 1. The Hockey Whisperer sees more evidence after last night that the Wild should lean into any sort of Fiala-Kaprizov pairing. All right? And I'm not saying, like, you're going to have line shuffles and you're going to change things up here and there. I'm not saying that they have to be glued together all the time because it's hockey.
Yep.
But last night, that pairing resulted in a beautiful – it was like a half gritty – like the first half of that play was kind of greasy. It was like fending off a defender and turning your back for leverage, right, Fiala?
Yep.
And then it transitions into a beautifully skilled cross-ice pass. Kaprizov on one knee, beats the goalie on the right side. These are the 2 most dynamic players on the team. It's very difficult for most opposing teams to match that combination. Again, I don't think it has to be every second they're on the ice, they're handcuffed together, but lean into finding them opportunities, especially, overtime's a great one because look how skilled and fast they are, but the Hockey Whisperer would like the Wild to lean into that pairing.
First of all, Whisperer, bravo, because what Fiala did last night.
There he goes. Hold on. Here he is.
The Whisperer, 1 for 1.
Okay,
One
you
for
know what?
one.
I'm going to keep the flag with me right now because I can't keep going back downstairs to the basement to get it. Because number one, what Fiala did last night was he played a gritty game that turned his skills into something that we clearly saw for essentially 3 periods. So just as far as the subplot of what the Whisperer said, bravo. Second of all, yes, and here's the best teams with the top players often do exactly what you said, which is you don't necessarily tie your 2 top players on the same line constantly, but what you do is late in games, key situations, you pair them up because of those skills, and that's what this team should do. And they played Fiala and Kaprizov together against the Kraken for a while, and Dean broke up that line and said, yeah, we clearly didn't like what we saw. I would say, to build upon what the Whisperer said, Dex, don't look for reasons to separate them.
Right.
So like, if you don't like it at first, like, you can't just be like, well, we tried it, it didn't work, Don't look for, and Kaprizov jumped on the ice in OT at the insistence of Sturm. So that was not Dean saying go, go, go with Kevin. So I think hopefully Dean learned, unlike some coaches in this town who can be a little bit stubborn, hopefully Dean saw what Dean should see, which is I shouldn't be looking for opportunities not to pair them. If the opportunity arises, accept it, go with it, good things can happen.
It was obvious that Kevin Fiala was probably the best player on the ice for the Wild through all of regulation and in overtime last night, and he was an absolute beast. He had a great jump from the start. And the volatility of when Kirill and Fiala are on the ice, there's going to be moments, because they're playmakers, that they're going to make you want to pull your hair out, and they're going to have turnovers. But in general, they're the 2 best players on this team. So yeah, do they have to spend every waking moment together on the ice? Probably not. But if in key situations, on the power play, when you need a goal in overtime, those 2 need to be on the ice together. And him setting up Kaprizov, that is exactly what Judd's Hockey Show has been trying to speak into existence for the last basically year and a half. So it was an awesome play.
Because the counter argument would be there's probably a thought that you'd want to space your 2 most dynamic players out so that they can have a greater impact from, like, 2 of them spread across 2 lines, right? They could both impact the game for maybe 40 minutes instead of just when they're on the ice together for 20. But if there's 5 minutes where where the game is tied and it's the 3rd period or it's overtime, right? Like, strategically finding, let's call it, high leverage spots for them to be paired to increase your chances of scoring a goal seems like an opportunity. All right, observation number 2 here.
Transition with the song. So
wow.
We got transition.
He's calling his own shot?
He's okay.
I'm calling the offense at the line. I'm unlike Kirk. I'm making decisions. It's a great transition. We got the flag.
Alert!
He's jumping on the ice. Forget the line change. Judge is getting on. The ice.
Yes, Judge just stumbling onto the ice.
I'm Zach Parisi.
Yeah.
I'm taking really long shifts.
You're not taking me off.
As you guys know, the Hockey Whisperer likes to partake in other sports. He likes to watch basketball once in a while. Okay, likes to kick his feet up, watch a little Inside the NBA, TNT. And it's become very apparent there is a current NBA comparison for Eriksson Ek that he would like to bring to the table here. That this is like, we're kind of seeing, last year was a really good year, and now it looks like he's sort of carrying it over here as the Swiss Army knife of the Minnesota Wild. Eriksson Ek is to the Wild what Draymond Green is to the Golden State Warriors, and that he's not necessarily elite at any one thing, but he can do like 7 things. Excuse me. And excuse the Hockey Whisperer. He's active. He can score. He's not going to score 35 goals, but he can score. He sets up his teammates. He checks. He blocks shots. He wins faceoffs. He does like 7 different things, all at a very good level, and he acts as the Swiss Army knife that holds things together. You need a Steph Curry, you need a Klay Thompson, but you need a Draymond Green in the NBA to bring it all together. And the Hockey Whisperer feels like Eriksson Ek is that Swiss Army knife.
I am gonna cry. This is so good. The Whisperer has come with the hockey. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what's going on here. Yeah, I love it. I love it because you don't notice him constantly, But he does a ton of things. He is a first class agitator, which is great.
And the things, if you watch
Not a
Draymond
fighter,
Green, a lot of the things that Draymond does don't always show up in a box score, but he's having an impact on the game. And he's opening things up for other players. And sometimes I feel like you look at Eriksson Ek and you're like, oh, okay, well, all right, he took a few shots, maybe had an assist, but like
his box scores aren't great. Yeah.
But he led the team in minutes or whatever,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of another like good NBA. Like it kind of reminds me of like DeAndre Jordan too, like a guy who's just like a good defensive stalwart who also is talented offensively if you put him in the right situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably like a decent comparison. He's not naturally gifted, but if he can put himself in the right situations and be a pest, almost maybe like Diet Patrick Beverly too. Like Pat Bev, you can make a case. Like Pat Bev can do similar things as well. So I like it. I don't mind it.
Look at that.
Hockey Whisperer, that was just impressive.
That was,
All right, so
that was
he's 2-2
insane.
here. 2-2. All right. Wave that flag. Okay, observation number 3 here, okay?
Let's get it. Let's hear it.
For years, even like, if you want to go back 20 years, it's even probably more apparent, but it's always felt like the Wild, even in their playoff runs where they've got Parise, Suter, and they're going to the playoffs for 7 years or whatever, it's always felt like they were a bad possession team. And I think the stats would probably back that up too, that they were just like, they'd win games, but they'd be like, the opposing team would control possession, and they would somehow still find a way through power plays or whatever to win a game. It feels like with Fiala, Kaprizov, Ek, and just all of these good young players, that they control the game more, that they're dictating action more now than they were during the Parise Suter era.
Right.
And we'll see if it leads to like postseason success. But Hockey Whisperer feels like the Wild bring the fight to the other team more than in previous seasons.
I think that that is correct, but and yes, there's definitely more spunk consistently than there used to be, but most importantly, this is all about being able to play today's game at pace. When Dean got the job, and at first he's like, we're going to skate, we're going to play with teams. I laughed. I'm like, you don't have the players to do that, dude. And if you don't, you can't control, you have no ability to control the game when, God bless him, Parise is 3 steps behind. If you look at this team now, the speed is a totally different ball game. So the Whisperer is right, but I contend the starting point for that is they can now play at pace, and that is imperative to win. This game is so fast, and it's fun. But if you got guys who are plodding along and are like, I'll eventually get there, and Koivu, I mean Koivu, for all that Koivu, we love him, he's great. By the end there, look at where he was on plays.
Yeah. It felt like, even during the peak Parise, Suter, Koivu years, it was so much dump and chase because, like, it just felt rare that they would tic-tac-toe their way into the zone and make something happen. It was like, all right, let's dump it in. Let's grime it up and get the puck back and then make something happen from behind the net. And it just, again, I don't know, maybe Declan has some stats or something, but, like, it feels like they're bringing the puck into the zone and actually, like, driving the action more than they have.
Because they can, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, just in terms of Corsi 4, which is not the most perfect thing to measure possession, but Corsi 4 measures how many shot attempts you're creating versus how many shot attempts you're allowing. And that's shots on goal, that's block shots, that's all attempted shots. And right now, in terms of Corsi 4 team percentage, the Wild are 3rd in the NHL. Toronto, look at that. The Whisperer, he speaks. When the Whisperer speaks, he knows what he's talking about. And just looking at the top 6 teams in Corsi 4, the Maple Leafs are number 1, who got off to a slow start but have picked things up a little bit. The Florida Panthers are 2. They're undefeated. They're 8-0. The Calgary Flames are 6-1. They're 4th. The Hurricanes are 6th. They're 8-0. So, yeah, typically, go figure, if you're out-possessing and out-shooting teams, well, typically that leads to more goals. So it's not a perfect statistic, but yes, I do believe that just there's more natural skill. And previous teams like Granlund and Zucker, it wasn't about speed with them. It was about getting the Wild in transition, right? It was about getting them in transition, not necessarily them being a possessive heavy team. And with these guys, it just seems like the Wild can fly up and down the ice with 4 lines.
There it is. The Hockey Whisperer. 3 observations here.
The Whisperer is on fire
He's calibrated. He's
Whisperer,
calibrated.
Macadac, the Whisperer, Crackhead Phil. The man is a hockey maven now. What's happened to you?
Well, also I'll tell you, the Hockey Whisperer and his lovely wife will oftentimes listen to either like go to sleep meditations or white noise just to put you to sleep. But lately, the Hockey Whisperer has opted for just listening to this every night, just on loop, 7 hours every night
through the wind.
You wake up at 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom. It's still playing.
Coming up next, it's the Ducks and Flyers.
They had a promo on Get Up this morning for like an Arizona Coyotes game on ESPN Plus. I'm like, all right, you guys pump the brakes a little bit on your hockey promotion.
Now, has our guy Stephen A. has he started to do some hockey commentary yet? Like
sure.
just on First Take?
He not on First Take. I know he has like Stephen A's World, which is also like an ESPN Plus exclusive thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like we would have seen, because when he did the first one, when the news dropped that ESPN was obtaining their rights, he did the 3 things Stephen A knows about hockey. I love, give me more of Stephen A.
I'm
Stephen
with you
A.
on that.
Come on, please.
I'm
give me
with
some
you
hockey.
on
It's
that.
hilarious, man. Yeah, like I need Stephen A. hockey takes. I need the way that he yells about the Cowboys. I need him to yell about the Rangers or something.
Exactly. That's exactly what we want. Some like Knicks-like commentary on
and I
the
need
Rangers.
his attempted pronunciations of Russian and Finnish names too.
You know what?
Kaprizov.
I'm there for it. I'm absolutely there for it. By the way, there is a Wolves flag that has been procured. So if the Wolves win tonight,
if they win again this season,
if they win tonight against the Clippers, there will be a flag waving ceremony tomorrow at some point. Okay.
All right. The pressure's on now. I mean, they've already felt the pressure because they played like crap in the fourth quarter against one of the worst teams in the NBA. But now the pressure's on.
Equal time can be had if you win games.
We do have Write That Down predictions on the show today. That's when we admit that we were wrong every single week. I have a lesson for the Twins I want to run by you too in a second, but those Hockey Whisperer observations were presented by Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They've been around helping business owners for over 100 years. They're based in Owatonna, and they provide risk management tools and resources to protect your business's bottom line, your employees. Find out more. Go to federatedinsurance.com and click on Risk Management Corner. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. So last night, the Braves became the 15th different team to win the World Series since 2001. So baseball, I mean, there was a time where it was like Yankees, right? I mean, even 50 years ago, the Yankees and the Dodgers were winning all the World Series. And now baseball has, almost to its detriment, like there's not really many household name stars anymore because the sport isn't as nationally marketable.
Right.
And it's a sport of parity, even though there's no salary cap. Like, it's a sport of parity. The Rays are going to the World Series. So 15, and the Braves are not a big market team. The Braves are right in there with the Twins in terms of payroll usually. 15 different World Series winners since 2001, and 21 different teams have been to the World Series over that time. Obviously, the Twins are not one of them. And I just wanted to take this moment to remind the audience that the Twins are 0-18 in their last 18 playoff games.
Yep.
I haven't said it in like a week. It's my fault. We should really be leading every single show with that incredible. That is the longest and most pathetic North American sports postseason losing streak in history. 0-18 in their last 18 playoff games. So I just wanted to bring that to the forefront here once again and remind people as the baseball season ends.
Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
Too.
Thanks.
Uplifting
That's really
as
uplifting.
well.
Yeah.
But as I talked about with you and Royce, okay, the thing about the Braves that I admire is they got to the deadline and they said it's the trade deadline and we're scuffling a bit. And we've got some good young players and weaknesses. And they didn't say, you know what, in 2 years we're going to be damn good, right? Like we're going to be damn good.
Window.
We can't. We got a long window.
Years.
We can't. We're not prepared to pop yet. So we are not going to make any real big all-in moves.
Don't mortgage the future.
Yep. Nope. What the Braves said was, screw it. Let's go for it. Let's improve in areas where we need to improve. And they made several trades: Rosario, Soler, Peterson,
Duvall,
exactly. They made some significant moves, and those moves saved them. And 2019, I mean, it's such a lesson about the hubris of our window is open for 4 years, right?
Yep.
Drives, that was such an opportunity. A historical home run hitting power team, and you need pitching. And instead of saying, we got to make some trades here, boys, like we got a chance to win a World Series, they said, we're good. And in game 2, they started Randy Dobnak in Yankee Stadium.
I also think,
that should drive you crazy still.
Oh, it does. The Twins offense also didn't show up in that series. They were the greatest home run hitting team ever, and they just didn't do anything offensively. So there's that to blame too. But it's not. I'm 100% in lockstep that's the main lesson to be learned from this Braves team. That a couple of those players they acquired at the trade deadline, Jorge Soler, World Series MVP, Eddie Rosario, ALCS MVP. Like, these guys came in, changed everything. They raised the bar for the on-field play. I think they added to the chemistry and just some of the immeasurable things, the swag, if you will, right? But it's not just this year's Braves team. I'm going to leave the Dodgers out of it. Like, the Dodgers are they've spent like $250 million on their payroll. They won the World Series last year. But in 2019, the Washington Nationals overhauled their bullpen at the trade deadline, and one of the acquisitions was Daniel Hudson, who closed out Game 7 of the World Series at Houston. Closed it out, literally was throwing the final pitch of the World Series, protecting a 4-run lead. In 2018, the Boston Red Sox acquired Steve Pearce at the trade deadline. He later became the World Series MVP. They also acquired Nathan Eovaldi, who was put into like the middle or back end of their rotation. That guy pitched 22 postseason innings for the Red Sox in 2018, allowed 4 runs, including, I think it was a loss in the World Series, but he came in for that 18-inning game against the Dodgers and pitched like the 12th through the 18th and gave up
incredible.
1 run or something.
Yep.
Just ridiculous. And then you want to go back even further. I mean, the Astros cheated in 2017, but like the Astros and the Cubs, aggressive at the deadline, Aroldis Chapman, Justin Verlander, Zach Greinke. Meanwhile, the Twins, as you mentioned, in 2019 had the greatest home run hitting team in baseball history. And they went out and got a 7th-inning reliever who's like 36 in Sergio Romo, and a frayed labrum Sam Dyson who wound up not pitching at all for you. Like, they deserve, and then they run Randy Dobnak out there for a postseason game. They're running these inexperienced relievers out in 1-run games against the Yankees and the Astros. It's like, you deserve it. You deserve it.
Right, but the sad thing about that statement is the fans don't. Like, the fans deserved you to say, how can we go all in as possible? Not be stupid, but how can we go all in? How can we get bullpen help, starting pitching help? What can we do so that we give this team, which in some ways, and this is awesome, had captured lightning in a bottle. Like those seasons, you can't look at a season like 19 and be like, this is what's to come. It's like 2017 for the Vikings. It's a magic carpet ride. Some years are, some years aren't. And the Twins had that. And instead of saying, okay, common sense says we need to capitalize right now, they said our math, our analytics show us that we are just starting here. I mean, that's a great thing to say. But how many in sports today, actual dynasties, like where you just have a run? Yeah. There's a few, but there ain't a lot now. It's not 1975.
Injuries happen and guys flame out. Yeah, I mean, they literally thought to themselves in 2019, ooh, this is awesome. But this is the start of a 5-year window here. And so let's not put all of our chips on this year's table. Let's be careful here. We don't want to trade. Let's take Royce Lewis, for example. At some point, you could have traded Royce Lewis. I wasn't advocating for it in 2019, but I'm saying as a front office, like, all options should be on the table when you have the greatest home run hitting team of all time, right?
Correct.
And in their minds, they're thinking, God, he was the number 1 overall pick. He's going to be a 10-year cornerstone player for us. He hasn't played since because he's hurt.
Right.
He's been hurt every year for like 3 years, right? Like, he's probably not going to play in the major leagues at best until the end of the 2022 season, if there is one. And you could go back even 10 years ago when the Twins had a really good team in 2010 or 2009, 2010. But 2010 specifically, they thought Aaron Hicks is going to be a cornerstone player for us. And this is not like speculation. This happened. Opposing teams were asking for Aaron Hicks. They had a chance to acquire Cliff Lee, who's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And they were like, we can't trade our cornerstone center fielder of the future, Aaron Hicks. That's too steep. It's like, guys, you have a chance to win a World Series right now. And in 2010, just like they ran out Randy Dobnak a couple years ago in a playoff game at Yankee Stadium, they ran out Brian Dunsing in a playoff game at Yankee Stadium.
Right.
Because Aaron Hicks, right? So.
And I think what's also like equally frustrating, and this is, I have a hard time parsing this out too, but like the Braves are an 88-win team when they won the East. Like the NL East was pretty terrible this year. And Bally's and other commentators crutch to this when the Nationals won the World Series. Well, they had the worst record in baseball. On June 15th, the Nationals had the worst record. They went on to win the World Series. Coming up next, we're going to tell you, even though we're 5 games under 500, why that teams like the Nationals and the Braves there's still hope. But also at the same time, like if I do want to pander to that, like, well, if the Braves can do that, like if the Braves can win 88 games and then make nice subtle moves at the deadline. And maybe I'm underselling those subtle moves because clearly they paid off with the World Series run. Why can't that also be the Twins? Like why can't that also be the same team that is active at the deadline, isn't a juggernaut and winning 99 games regularly, but has a window to go all in to do that? It's I have a tough time parsing out, like, is that Bally's being Bally's because I'm also somewhat still of a fan, or where can they actually be a team like Atlanta that does this and it translates to an actual World Series championship?
In 2019, it was just taking a step back from everything in my mind, looking at where you were, what was transpiring, and understanding it was special and capitalizing. But that's what sports is. Like sports is, stats are great, and knowledge and smarts and thinking things through is awesome. But sports are also reactionary at times, and there are certain things that you can't quantify, but you look and say, this is special. How can we make this as special as possible? And I'll go back to what I said. The hubris now is saying we have a 5-year window where we're going to build a dynasty. Odds are you're not. But when you have that 1 year, when you got to, one, say it's that type of year, and two, Dex, do what you're saying, which is, and like the Braves didn't do stupid things, but the Braves said, how can we build here? The Twins literally said, we're going to get a reliever from the A's who's okay. And the Dyson thing to this day bugs me because he was hurt. So bad. He was a first-class a-hole.
You hated cats.
Well, I mean, the whole thing. But, like, you didn't even vet that one.
Yeah.
So, but if I'm a Twins fan, that's where fans in this town deserve more. That's where fans in this town should be mad. Well, like, forget the narratives of the Poles are just cheap and so they'll never win, because that's the lazy one. But the real one is, what were you doing? If you weren't pissed off that Randy Dobnak had to start a playoff game in Yankee Stadium, and of course the Twins are like, it'll be no problem. I was there, you guys. They were mocking him, Uber dry. And if you don't think that stuff gets into a person's head,
coming up next, Dobnak finds control in the second inning.
Coming up next, we talk about Randy Dobnak's Uber driver rating. It was a 4.95. Exactly. But I mean, those are the type that's where the smarts of sports has to meet the common sense of sports, I think.
Yeah, I think the Twins, and we can wrap on it. We'll get to write that down predictions here, but the Twins and the Vikings have a very similar mindset in that they're more concerned and obsessed. And by the way, at least the Vikings are like regularly in that playoff contention. The Twins will just sort of disappear for chunks of time. And the Vikings will win a playoff game once in a while too, and like go into New Orleans and beat Drew Brees, right?
And make splash moves too.
Yep, and they make splash moves. In their defense,
they do make splash moves.
Yep, but they largely get really comfortable when they're good. They're like, yes, okay, this is the sweet spot. We got fans in the stadium. This is awesome. Okay, like let's just be good as long as we possibly can, as opposed to taking it to the next level, being more aggressive and cashing in. And I've seen all these graphics on ESPN the last couple days now, where I think the Twin Cities, now that DC won a Stanley Cup a couple years ago. The Braves are back in the mix as World Series winners. In terms of NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, the Twin Cities, I believe, is the longest combined number of years without a championship. And I know the Lynx won 4, but this is for those 4 leagues, the heritage leagues and franchises that generations of Minnesota sports fans have gone back in time for. And you could say, well, but the Lynx were around before the Wild. Yeah, but the North Stars hooked people in the 60s. So that's why, like, I don't want to hear that fight. Like, you're disrespecting the Lynx. No, we love the Lynx are awesome. They won 4 championships, but they don't have like 4 decades of fans in their family like some of these other franchises do. Right. So, anyhow, I just wanted to 0-18 in their last.
Men continue to screw things up. That's what it comes down to. Typical male.
However, coming up next.
White
men are great.
White men are trash.
All right. When are you guys going to admit that you were wrong? Coming up next on Write That Down.